potential Israeli response.
מתייצבת מאחורי ההחלטה הזאת.
Number of Iranian missiles.
Israel is determined to make Iran pay for the attacks against it. And early this morning, Israeli forces conducted air strikes on the headquarters of the Iran-backed Kataib Babiurian, which is part of the so-called Iranian Revolutionary Guards funded by the Revolutionary Guards. A major explosion occurred at a military base belonging to the Popular Mobilization Forces, located 50 kilometers south of Baghdad, resulting in casualties and significant material damage. Footage taken from a vehicle showed a strong explosion with a fire in the distance, followed by bright fragments rising into the sky. It's a Kalsu military base situated along the highway in the El Meshru area, north of Babel province, houses personnel from the Iraqi army, federal police, and Iranian Revolutionary Guards, including the general staff. The camp also contains an ammunition depot and storage for tanks and other military equipment. A security source told Shafak news agency on Saturday that 3 missiles targeted the headquarters of the 27th Brigade within the PMF base, causing injuries to 3 people and significant material damage. As confirmed by sources at a nearby hospital in the city of Hilla to Reuters, the attack resulted in the death of 1 Iranian Revolutionary Guards fighter and injuries to 6 others. The security chief of Babel reported hearing 5 explosions following the attack on Camp Kalsu. Now, let's watch the video presentation prepared by our team to share further investigations on this topic. This incident is a part of the recent escalation in regional tensions, including Israel's retaliatory actions against Iran. These escalations followed the launch of air defenses from an airbase in Iran and near a nuclear facility in Isfahan. The tensions were further heightened by Iran's unprecedented drone and missile attack on Israel, which was in retaliation for an attack on an Iranian consulate in Syria. Iranian Revolutionary Guards, initially formed as a coalition of mostly Iran-affiliated Iraqi armed groups, later transformed into a recognized security force in Iraq, although some groups within the PMF, particularly after Israel's aggression in Gaza on October 8, have been involved in past attacks on US forces in Iraq. Activities by groups other than Kataib Hezbollah have decreased since early February. Following the Israeli attacks, public protests in Iran have put pressure on the Iranian government to respond to the attacks on Israel and have expressed their support for such measures. These developments signify a complex interplay of local allegiances and international conflicts, influencing the stability of the region. The Middle East is seeing a rise in tension. The Israeli Air Force, which has carried out multiple attacks on important targets, is still engaged in operations against Iran, the IDF said in a message, to fire 3 missiles at radar defense for a secret nuclear site in Iran. But new actions could still be forthcoming. The Air Force base in Isfahan, according to US media reports, was struck by missiles fired from outside Iranian airspace, not the nearby fortified Natanz atomic center. Maintains that only small drones were involved in the alleged Israeli strike, which went beyond the scope of several small drones described by Tehran and included 3 missiles fired by Israeli Air Force warplanes that were part of an air raid defending the nearby top-secret Natanz nuclear site. The strike was reportedly very limited, and the report quoted a U.S. official as stating that the missiles were fired from outside of Iranian airspace. It stated that although the assessment had not yet been finished, preliminary findings indicated that the strike had destroyed the radar site. Rasul Shoje Af, 2024 3 missiles launched by Israeli Air Force warplanes targeted an air defense radar site near Isfahan that was part of an array defending the nearby top-secret Natanz nuclear site, according to reports from US media on Friday. This was an alleged Israeli strike in Iran that went beyond the scope of several small drones described by Tehran. According to a U.S. official quoted in the ABC report, the missiles were fired from outside of Iranian airspace. The report claimed that the strike was relatively small. It stated that although the assessment had not yet been finished, preliminary findings indicated that the strike had destroyed the radar site. Iran had earlier stated that the attack on Isfahan involved 3 small drones. State television did not identify any missiles or damage in the attack, only claiming that the small aircraft were destroyed by air defenses. Officials reported that air defenses opened fire on a significant airbase in Isfahan, which has long housed Iran's fleet of American-built F-14 Tomcats that were acquired prior to the Islamic Revolution in 1979. The heavily guarded nuclear facilities, which are located about 100 north of the city and are mostly hidden beneath a mountain, were not the target of the strike, according to news reports citing senior U.S. military sources. Rather, the target was an Isfahan military base. According to one of the sources who spoke to news, the Israelis hit the target they were going for. They also mentioned that Iran's Russian-made air defense system had been shown to be ineffectual, and that one main target had been hit more than once. According to Fox, among the targets of the attack were the military base's air defense systems, which guard the neighboring nuclear plants. According to the source, Israel wanted to persuade the Iranians that it could actually reach out and touch them with this strike. Although the Israeli government remained mute regarding the strike, several politicians and former officials expressed their opinions. Prior General Israel Ziv, a former head of IDF operations, told Channel 12 News that if Israel was behind the attack, its goal was to send a clear message to Iran about the IDF's superiority in technology and its ability to reach Iran's most vulnerable cities, rather than to inflict significant damage. Frontline report satellite images did not seem to show any significant damage to Iran's Isfahan airbase, despite reports that a radar site had been destroyed. At approximately 10 a.m., the synthetic aperture radar satellite images were captured, 5 hours following the strike local time. Israeli strikes trigger the activation of Iranian air defense systems. The most recent tit-for-tat between the two nations occurred on Friday morning, when Israel launched a limited attack on Iranian territory. Chains after Iran launched an unprecedented attack on Israel with a barrage of drones and missiles, the majority of which were shot down. Israel launched an attack on Iranian soil on Friday in a tit-for-tat battle between the two enemies. The Israeli airstrike on the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus on April 1 prompted the Iran. The strikes have exposed a protracted covert conflict between the two sides and coincide with Iran's backing of Hamas, a militant Palestinian organization whose attack on Israel on October 7 set off the Gaza invasion. How much about what transpired do we know? According to Iranian official media, early on Friday morning, air defenses shot down 3 small drones over the nation's nuclear program's facilities in Isfahan, the country's capital. Additionally, air defense systems were turned on over a number of other cities, including the northern city of Tabriz. Although Israel has a long-standing policy of remaining silent about operations against Iran, U.S. officials quickly revealed that Israel was the attack's mastermind. Additionally, US officials have been informed that an Israeli missile struck an Isfahan target. Iran's nuclear sites in the province of Isfahan have not sustained any damage, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency. So locals in the region provided BBC Persian with footage showing flashes in the night sky and the sound of an explosion. What responses have both sides given? There is no need for retaliation because Iranian state media and officials have described the incident as an attack by infiltrators rather than by Israel. In a broadcast on Friday, Iranian state media featured images of Isfahan's air defense systems, emphasizing the attack's lack of damage. While some Israeli officials have refrained from making public comments, they have been quoted as saying that Israel was at fault. According to a source familiar with Western intelligence assessments cited by Reuters, special forces or an Israeli allied faction in Iran may have been involved in the drone launch, supporting the assertion made by the Iranians that they took off from Iranian territory. Iran's response was muted, and Israel's limited action could indicate that both sides are trying to de-escalate the situation. What takes place in Isfahan? Isfahan holds great importance due to its military-industrial complexes, locations linked to Iran's nuclear program, and a sizable airbase that houses the nation's aging F-14 Tomcat fleet.